I welcome you all to this round of lecture annotation video. So this is the topic for week 12 and lesson 1, and the topic is multiple access. So at first I would like to address what do we mean by this multiple access. So let's move on forward, and I have already given you the backgrounds of this concept of multiple access. So when nodes of different stations are connected to a common link or channel, and they always try to access or transmit data at the same time, what happens then? That is, if the link is multi-point or the link is kind of broadcast system, so what happens and how can we solve or how can we ensure this multiple access can take place is covered in this topic of multiple access. At first, we have to know what is the point of this. Why do we need this? What is the problem we face while controlling these accesses? I have told you before that when you communicate with me in the Google Meet, you cannot altogether have a conversation at the same time with me. So that is a very problematic issue. So to solve it, to solve this problem, we use these multiple access techniques. So I'm just reading through the slide. Many protocols have been devised to handle accesses to a shared link. So these protocols that have been devised to handle these accesses to a shared link is called multiple access. So all of these protocols belong to a sublayer in the data link layer called media access control. So that is what we will try to do. We will try to access the media at the same time, but the media will control the access in the data link layer, which is called media access control or MAC layer, sublayer. So let's move on forward. So these are the different types of the multiple access protocols. Some are random access protocols, Aloha, CSMA, CSMA-CD, CSMA-CA. So I will move on to the full form when we start the topic in detail. And the control access protocol, reservation, polling, token passing, etc. Channelization protocol is kind of similar to multiplexing protocols. Frequency division multiple access, time division multiple access, and code division multiple access. We would see this channelization protocol in our last slide. So let's move on forward. The first type of multiple access is random access. Another name for this random access is called contention method. No station. Here we assume this topic at first, which is no station is superior to another station. This is our first assumption. And then none is assigned the control over another. So it's kind of same thing, that if no station is superior, then no station is assigned a control over another station. No station permits or does not permit another station to send. So they cannot control when another station will transmit the message. So it is controlled right here. At each instance, a station that has data to send uses a procedure defined by the protocol to make a decision on whether or not to send. So what happens here is that a station that has the data to send uses a procedure predefined by the protocol at the MAC sublayer or the data link layer to make a decision that whether it should send or data or not. So these are the full forms that I have told you before. CSMA. This is the carrier sends multiple access, CSMA, and CSMA with collision detection, CD, not the compact disk drive. So be careful about that. Carrier sends multiple access with collision avoidance, that is able to avoid the collision. So what is collision? When two or more channels send or access the medium at the same time, then collisions occur. You will see this concept of collisions and deadlock when you study operating system. So I will leave it at that. I will discuss what is required for this course. So in the background, I have already given you that how does a collision or access conflict occurs. So in a random access method, each station has the right to medium without being controlled by any other station. However, if more than one station tries to send at the same time, there is an access conflict which is termed as collision, and the frames will be either be destroyed or modified. To avoid access conflict or to resolve it when it happens, each station follows a procedure that answers the following questions. When can the station access the medium? What can the station do if the medium is busy? How can the station determine the success or failure of the transmission? What can the station do if there is an access conflict? So these are the questions that needs to be answered before we try to access the medium for transmitting our data as a channel. So the first random access technique is Aloha. So a bit of history is being described in here. So I'm just going to read it about. The earliest random access method was developed at the University of Hawaii in early 1970s. It was designed for a radio wireless LAN, but it can be used on any shared medium. So in wired medium we can use this method, or in another form, wired or wireless, wherever we transmit, we can use this random access method. The medium is shared between the stations. When the station sends data, and the station may attempt to do so at the same time, the data from the two stations collide and becomes garbled. Because this is the earliest random access method, there is no process to avoid the collisions, or there is no process of collision detection. So this you have to remember it. The original Aloha protocol is called Pure Aloha. So the original or Aloha protocol, we will see another version of Aloha protocol. So the original version is called Pure Aloha. The idea behind that is that each station sends a frame whenever it has a frame to send, that is multiple access. However, since there is only one channel to share, there is the possibility of collision between the frames from different stations. So this is the main idea, that whenever a channel has the data or the frame to send, it can send, but because there is no warning station or warning system, so there might be collision of different channels or frames. So this method is kind of not used right now. So this is the visual representation or visualization when we try to send data from these 4 stations. So the collision period or collision duration is represented in here. During this collision duration, we can see this portion of station 2 frame, second frame, and this portion of station 4 frame is directly under collision, and as a result, the signal, the result that we are receiving at the receiver end might be garbled. That is, this will act as some kind of noise, and it will create a distorted signal. We have already are familiar with different kinds of impairments. So here is the basic idea of how the frames collide. So let's move on forward. So this is the flowchart of the pure Aloha protocol. But before we delve to this flowchart, we have to be familiar with the legends right here. So K, what does it mean? It means the number of atoms that we can give a number that we will send this a frame specific, let's say for example 5 times. So so after 5 times we will not send this frame anymore, but request the sender to restart the channel or connection, re-establish the connection, because it is not possible to send the frames or receive them. And TP is the T subscript P is the maximum propagation time. That is the time it takes to reach the receiver, accepted by the receiver, and the time we start is as the last bit is sent from the sender side. So this is the propagation time, and T subscript FR is the transmission time, average transmission time. So for example, we are sending 5 frames. So 5 frames in total takes 100 seconds. So in average, it takes 20 seconds for the 5 frames. So this is the average transmission time. And T subscript B is the backoff time. It is a random multiple of the propagation time or the random number multiple of transmission time. And this random number is a specific number which can be found by a power of 2 with a kind of odd multiple of 2, 0 to 2. So here K is the number of attempts to be used, and 0 to that attempt 2 to the power that attempt minus 1 would give a specific random number. So this is all about the legends. So I hope you get that. So a station has a frame to send. So it starts the counter. At first the number of attempts is 0. So it sends the frame and it waits for 2 multiple of the propagation time, and wait and then wait for this acknowledgement that the message is received by the receiver and the receiver sends an acknowledgement. It waits for that message, that acknowledgement. If it is true, then the transmission was a success. But if it is false, then we try it again and we add this number of attempts and we check the value of the attempt number. If the number of attempts is greater than the number of maximum attempts allowed, we abort the transmission. Otherwise, we choose another random R and wait for a period of backoff time and then send the frame again. So this is what is the flowchart or the workflow of the Aloha pure Aloha protocol. I hope you get that. So these are the kind of examples, mathematical examples. I will skip them as usual, and it will be your self-study. So study it well, because I will ask it. I will give an assignment regarding this example, or it might be given in your mid or quiz that I will take in the next week. So be careful about these examples, study it, or if you face any problem, please inform me in the next class. Now, here we see the vulnerable time for pure Aloha protocol. So what happens here is that we are depicting a specific time period t minus t is the current time and t subscript fr is the average transmission time, and after another transmission time, average transmission time, we get t plus small t and plus capital T subscript fr. So what happens here is that there is a possibility of collision. So this portion of frame of the channel A is collided with this portion of the frame of C, and this portion of the frame of B is colliding with this portion of the frame of A. So this particular time are called the vulnerable time for pure Aloha protocol. So formally, vulnerable time, the length of time in which there is a possibility of collision, is called the vulnerable time. So I think you get that. So you study it, you go through with these lines, and if you have any problem, share it with me. So this is another mathematical example I am observing here. So this would also be your self-study. So if you have any problem, share it with me. I will discuss it in your counseling time. And if you do not have any problem, then all the same, please inform me that you do not have any problem. So let's move on forward. So these are the formulas that you need to use for the next examples. The throughput of the pure Aloha is a value of s is equal to g into e to the power minus 2g, where g has a value of half, and the maximum value of s, that is throughput, is 0.184. So this is what happens. So this is another mathematical example. I'm going to give it as self-study. I would address it when we review it in our last class if you need it, or if you don't need it all the same, I will discuss it in the last class. So study it carefully. Now I had told you before that I would introduce you to another form of Aloha technique. So it's right here. It's called slotted Aloha. So why do we need this particular slotted Aloha or this method? In pure Aloha, there is no rule that defines when the station can send. A station may send soon after another station has started or just before another station has finished. So slotted Aloha was invented to improve the efficiency of pure Aloha. So in slotted Aloha, time is divided into slots, a kind of familiar technique with those of you are familiar with time division multiplexing technique. So it's divided into slots and of the propagation average transmission time duration, which has the duration of average transmission times, and force the station send only at the beginning of the time slot. So in other words, if we all have a frame to send, all the channels or all the stations, they have to wait for the beginning of the time slot. So let's move on to the visualization. It would be more clearer. So this is what happens. So I have to ask you to remember that this does not ensure that there is no collision. Rather, it divides all the time into different slots and force the stations to use the slots and transmit at the beginning of the slot only. So when the station 1, station 2 and station 3 are trying to transmit 2 frames each, and in the slot the frame 1 is being in slot number 1, the frame the first frame for the station 1 is being sent, and in the slot 2, 2 frames, one of frame one for frame one for station 2, that is frame 2.1, and another frame for station 3, frame 3.1 is being sent at the same time, but the beginning and the end remains the constant value. Beginning and the end remains proportional, kind of similar with the slot beginning and ending. So this is what happens. And in the slot 3, we have the frame of station 1 and the frame of station 4. First frame of station 4 and the second frame of station 1 is being transmitted. So this is what happens in the slotted Aloha. So I hope you get that. If you have any problem understanding, please share it with me. So this is the throughput when the constant value is 1. So this is used in the mathematical examples. So you just have to remember it. So this is the vulnerable time for slotted Aloha protocol, that when this slotted Aloha is used, the frames that collide, it entirely collides with another frame of another channel in its entire duration. That is, whole of the frame of A is colliding with whole of the frame of station C, So this is a huge drawback of slotted Aloha. So I hope you get that. So let's move on to the example. So as usual, I would give this mathematical example as your self-study. But if you have any problems, please share it with me in the next class. Thank you. So let's move on forward. So we start the concept of carrier sense multiple access. So in a short description or explanation, I would like to say that here what happens is that the station senses that I need to send right now or I cannot send right now. This carrier sense is being provided in here that we would address that we cannot send while another station is transmitting, or we can transmit because no other stations are transmitting right now. So this is what the CSMA is all about. So I'm just going to start reading this lines aloud. To minimize the chance of collision and therefore to increase the performance, the CSMA method was developed. The chance of collision can be reduced if a station senses the medium before trying to use it. Carrier sense multiple access CSMA requires that each station first listen to the medium or check the state of the medium before sending. In other words, CSMA is based on the principle sense before transmit or listen before talk. CSMA can reduce the possibility of collision, but it cannot eliminate it. So this is the most important line of this topic. CSMA can reduce the possibility of collision, but it cannot eliminate it entirely. So figure in the next slide will explain the reason. So let's move on to the figure. So this is kind of a difficult figure to understand. So I would try my best of my ability. But if you fail to understand, please inform me and I will gladly describe it again. So these are the channels of the medium that are trying to send the signals. So these are the space, and during this space we are sending the signal of station A, and these are the space that we are trying to send the signal of station B, and these are the space we are trying to send the signal of station A, and this is the portion where we are trying to send the signal of station B. So during this whole period of time, both signals exist. So this is the collision in the carrier sense multiple access. So we are sensing some kind of there might be another signal is sending, but we are not preparing ourselves to what to do in that case. So that's why this collision might occur. So the vulnerable times is the time that the collision occurs. So because the fins of channel A and channel B are propagating, so this is a low possibility or vulnerable time period, and this is the high vulnerable time period, because during this time the station of C and the station of D also tries to sense right here. So this is the vulnerable time and the propagation time. These are for your conceptual aptitudes only. This would not be a very important question for your quiz or your min. So I hope you get that. So the question arises, what should a station do if the channel is busy? What should a station do if the channel is idle? To answer this question, there are three methods that have been devised. There is one persistent method, non-persistent method, and the p-persistent method. In the one persistent method, this is the behavior in a nutshell. So what happens here is that the one persistent method is simple and straightforward. In this method, the station finds the line idle, it sends its frames immediately with probability 1. This method has the highest chance of collision because two or more stations may find the line idle and send their frames immediately. So there is a high chance, highest chance of collision, because two or more stations may find the line idle and send their frames immediately. So always they're trying to sense, when they're found busy, they will not transmit their signal or frame, and as soon as they find the channel idle, they will transmit. So this method has the highest chance for collision. So let's move on to the next one, the non-persistent method. In this non-persistent method, a station that has a frame to send senses the line, that it senses the line periodically. If the line is idle, it sends immediately. If the line is not idle, it waits a random amount of time and then senses the line again. This method reduces the efficiency of the network because the medium remains idle when there may be stations with frames to send. Because after a sense or a signal that checks if the medium is transmitting, that is busy or idle, it waits for a amount of time. So after a particular sense and then a waiting period, it is not the channel is not transmitting anything at this duration, for this duration. So this in turn reduces the efficiency of the network. So this is the non-persistent behavior. I hope you get that. So let's move on to the next persistent behavior or method. So p-persistent method is used if the channel has time slots. So it's kind of used with a time slot or a fixed duration, or a slot duration equal to or greater than the maximum propagation time. The p-persistent approach combines the advantages of the two strategies. It reduces the chance of collision and improves efficiency. In this method, after the station finds the line idle, it follows this step. With a probability P, the station sends its frame. The probability Q, that is 1 minus P, the station waits for the beginning of the next slot and checks the line again. If the line is idle, it goes to step 1. So if we wait for a specific amount or second, different types of seconds, and then check again, if the line is, if the medium is idle, the station sends the frame immediately. And if the line is busy, it acts as though a collision has occurred and uses the back-off procedure. That it backs off, it transmit again after retransmit again after a duration. So that's all. So this is the flowchart of P persistent method. When the channel is busy, we wait for a specific time. So this is the start and this is the final process. A session can transmit or use a back-off procedure as well as like the collision has occurred. So we generate a random number 0 to 1 and we send the frame based on that, and this random number should be less than the probability with which the frame is being sent. So if it's less than the probability or equal to that, the station can transmit, and if it does not, it waits for a slot and checking if the channel is busy. And if the channel is busy, it triggers the back-off process, and if the channel is not busy, then it generates another random number 0 to 1 in between them, and then try to retransmit the frame again or signal again. That is the process of P persistent method. So now we will see what does collision detection method works. So the CSMA method does not specify the procedure following a collision. So this is the improvement right here. So K-RSM multiple access with collision detection augments the algorithm to handle the collision. So what do we do if there is actually a collision? In this method, a station monitors the medium after it sends a frame to see if the transmission was successful. If so, the station is finished, that it has successfully sent the frame, so it kind of starts working on the next frame. If however there is a collision, the frame is sent again. So we resend if there is any collision that occurs. The procedure of CSMA CD is explained in the next slide by a flowchart. So we will see it in the next slide. So we are quite familiar with the legends right here. So I'm not going to discuss it again. So this is the flowchart of collision detection, CSMA collision detection procedure. The station has a frame to send, and this is the first attempt. So the value of K is 0. We apply one of the persistence methods, and we transmit and receive, and we check if there is a collision or not. If there is no collision, then we transmit and receive we transmit from the sender side and receive in the receiver, and we check again if there is collision detected. So if there is no collision, then we regard the transmission as success. Otherwise, we are sending a jamming signal to the channel link to the media access for accessing the media, and we increment the attempt by 1, and then if it is less than the maximum number of attempts allowed, we create a random number R and wait for a specific backoff time, and then restart the procedure of sending the frame. Otherwise, if all the attempts have been used, we abort the transmission. So this is the procedure in the flowchart. So right here is the another process of CSMS. So this is the collision avoidance. So it kind of avoids when possible the collisions. So it was invented for wireless networks. Collisions are avoided through the use of CSMS three strategies: the interframe space, the contention window, and acknowledgements. The procedure is explained by a flowchart. So let's move on to the flowchart. You are quite familiar with this kind of legends. So the new ones are IFS, RTS, and CTS. So what is the full form of IFS? Interframe space. RTS is request to send, and CTS is clear to send. So at first, if we have a frame to send, we will check if the channel is free or not. This is what is known as carrier sense, and we wait for a period or a time period of IFS, interframe space, and choose a random number R between 0 and 2 to the power k with 1 subtracted, and use the R slot for sending the frame. This is what we call the contention window, and send the RTS that we are requesting the receiver to, if you are able, you should receive. This is our request to send from the sender side, and then we set a timer, and then we perform the actual transmission. If we receive a clear to send from the receiver before the timer runs out, then we will wait another interframe space period and then send the frame for transmission. This is the actual transmission right here, and set a timer which will be used to receive the acknowledgement from the receiver. So if the acknowledge or ACK received before the timed out, then the transmission is a success. If it is not, then we attempt it again, and we use this k as the number of attempts, and limit is the number of maximum attempts allowed, and then we wait for a specific backoff time that is being defined for this particular channel or medium access control procedure. So this is how CSMS collision avoidance works. So this is all about this lecture. Thank you for your patience. This was a very long lecture. I hope you get that. But if you have any questions, I would gladly review it when we resume the Google Meet session. So thank you. See you in next lecture and tuition video. Goodbye.